Here we go. I think we are live now, hey? Hey, Mr. Steve. Hi, Emma. See a few people starting to join now. If anyone can see my Christmassy background and hear my voice, just pop a message in the chat. Hey, Emma. Good to see you on here. Cool, cool. All righty. Well, we're not going to hold on any further because we are ready to go. And this morning's going to be I think a relatively quicker webinar than normal. But the idea of it is to help you sort of plan out, or we'll give you some practical things you can do to help make the Christmas cash flow a little bit easier, I hope. Now, Christmas for a lot of businesses is actually one of the slower times. It depends on your industry though, because there's some industries that this, especially like retail, for instance, that starts to go through the roof. But especially in many professional services and that sort of style business, it is a bit of a slower time as people travel for holidays and things like that, and also most businesses shut down for at least a week, if not 2 or 3 weeks, depending on the actual business itself. So it can be a time where the sales slow up, and so what we want to do is make sure that you've still got money to to keep the roof over the head, so to speak, and to provide for a nice Christmas time for you as a business owner. So that's the idea of the webinar, is just a few handy hints on making life easier throughout the next few months. In terms of what we're actually going to cover, we are going to run through sort of 3 key things. The first one is to have a review of your profitability. Now, there's a couple of key things here that we're going to run through, and this is almost like looking in the rearview mirror about what's happened this year for your business. Now, for many, it's been a bit of a different one, but I wanted to sort of show you really how to practically go in and have a look at that. The next one we'll look at is a rainy day fund or profit war chest, or there's a few different names that we might use here at Inspire for this, but basically having some cash set aside to get you through a bit of a question mark holiday period for some. And then the last one there is have or prepare a budget. So hopefully you've got one, a financial budget for your business, but I will go through and show how to, some basic steps of how to actually set that up if you don't. So that's the brief intro. Now we will have time for questions as we go, because and I'm just keeping an eye on attendees. But yeah, if you do have questions as we go, please pop them in the chat and we can work through them. So the first one here is reviewing profitability. So, I think this has shifted from a financial perspective. This year has been one of the most interesting things we've ever seen as accountants, and probably you as a business owner, where it depends on your industry, but I think we've had probably some high highs and some low lows. I don't think anyone's been exempt from both of those things this year. So what we want to have a look is, how is our business actually performing from a profit perspective, before COVID hit and then after COVID hit. A couple of the questions I want you to ask yourself is, are you actually making an operating profit in your business? And what I mean by that is without any stimulus measures. So no JobKeeper, no cash flow boost. Are you still making a profit in your business? Because that's going to be very, very good to know, especially to make decisions moving forward into 2021. And also for some businesses, the picture might not be good, but the other one is, does your business have financial viability moving into the next few months and in the new year? And for some, and we've already seen this a little bit, the answer to that is no. I think the business owner will be better off if unfortunately, if they had to close the doors permanently. but hopefully that is not too many of us. All right, so in terms of how you review your profitability, most of our clients use Xero. So I'm actually going to open up the demo file. If you can see that on my screen here. And so this is the dashboard of Xero. What we want to do to have a look at profitability is go to the profit and loss statement. Hopefully the profit statement. So we jump into here. Now, so this is, and I'll actually go to the old version because it's a little bit easier to see around. So if you go into all reports, there's two types of profit and loss. There's a new one and an old one. I actually prefer the old style. There we go. And then wide view, you can see more columns on it. So, so this is your profit and loss statement. And the things we want to have a look at here, or what I mean by profitability is this number really, net profit, along the bottom here. Now, if this was your company, the demo company, we've got some problems here because we are making losses, and that is not fun to do. So what I want to do though is suggest that you have a look, and we're in the very end of November, so your bookkeeping is probably not going to be completed for that month of November anyway. So let's get back to September. If things have been steady for you since September, go to September. Otherwise, you might want to have a look at October as your starting month more recently, and then have a look at the 3 months. So we're looking at 3 months at a time. So the September quarter, and then we're comparing that with the June quarter, which is, I guess, the first quarter that COVID hit, and then March and December the prior year. So we're going to have a look at 4 quarters. So the current September plus the 3 previous. Untick here, update that, and the demo company doesn't have much information, but what you should see is some numbers going back here. Now, some key things I want you to have a look at is how's your profitability going in the September quarter versus the last few. Now, hopefully it's picked up for most businesses, especially after the June quarter here, which could have been a bit of a question mark depending on what industry or where you're located, given that there was, I think most of the country was locked down in parts of the June quarter, and then Victoria was actually locked down for most of the September quarter again, unfortunately. But just see how you're tracking along there. And what I want you to do is even look at December last year. So to see how you're tracking, and you can always add more here. So you could even go up to 7 comparable periods. So you've got September 2020 versus September 19, and you can see how you're tracking versus last year pretty clearly. Again, the demo company does not have information going back, which is frustrating, but that is the way of the road when you're looking at demo data. So have a look at how it's been trending, pre versus during COVID, and I guess as a business owner, you've probably got an idea of how you might, how your sales might be tracking going into December. Now, the great thing is that most businesses are actually doing the same or better now than they were before COVID, which is so relieving. So hopefully that's you, but that's how you check in terms of the profit perspective. Now, the second thing I want you to have a look at is making sure that you're actually making an operating profit. Now, in terms of your layout of your profit and loss statement, every business will look different. But what you want to do is, if you've got cash flow boost or JobKeeper income in any of these quarters or months, if you're looking month by month, you want to make sure that you work out how your profit and loss is doing without those incentives. So what I'm going to do is edit this layout. And I'm going to pull, so there's an account called advertising here, and I'm going to say it's JobKeeper cash flow boost. I know it's advertising, but you will see what I mean in a sec. So I want to move that, anything that's not actual operating profit of your business, to non-operating income, if it's government grants and that sort of thing. and I'll show you the difference here. So what happened is any JobKeeper or cash flow boost or anything you bring down to this section will come out of your operating profit up here. Now, that is actually a true reflection of how your business is tracking without any government incentives. So I do want every business owner to do that so that you know, are you still profitable? Is your profit enough to put food on the table for your family, especially if you take drawings and don't pay yourself a salary? So I think it's important to know that, but that's also a question on the financial viability on the business, you know, at the end of when JobKeeper runs out. So if you're showing a loss every month, you know, without JobKeeper, you've got to make some decisions soon because you will run out of JobKeeper. That's scheduled to end at the end of March. March 2021. Is when the last month we can claim for finishes up, unless anything else happens. But but that's important for you to know. Are you making an operating profit without those stimulus measures? Cool. So we're going to switch back to the slides now. If no one's got any questions with the profitability side of things. Actually, one more thing I might mention is this does rely on your bookkeeping being up to date and it being accurate. So I guess your data is good as the who's looking after it and making sure that they're actually doing it accurately. If you're making decisions on inaccurate information, that is a bad position to be in. So make sure your bookkeeping is decent. Alrighty. Next one here is a strong encouragement to have a rainy day fund, or sometimes we call this a profit war chest. We had a client in about May this year just send us a bit of a note of thanks, saying that a couple of years ago we recommended that they start a separate bank account called the Profit War Chest. And they said, oh, we didn't really need to use it since then, but this year's been a bit of an interesting one, and there's been a few rainy days. So thank you so much for your recommendation. It's saved our business and meant that we didn't have to make anyone redundant, and we've seen out the other side. So as an accountant, that's pretty fulfilling. So I do want to suggest this one again, if you don't already have something set up, to create a rainy day fund. Now, the key here is to ideally have a separate bank account in your business name at a separate bank, so that you're not looking at this account every time you log into your transactional banking accounts. Now that keeps it out of your mind, so you ignore it and you don't feel like you've got 20, 30, 50 or 100 grand sitting aside just for that rainy day. Hopefully it's out of sight, out of mind, but you do know, I guess, at the end of the day, you can access it if you do need it. Now, a lot of business owners I've seen are actually quite cashed up as a result of the stimulus measures. So if you don't have something like this in place, then start with any excess cash that's lying around in the business accounts. So if you've received 80 grand of cash flow boost, let's say, and you haven't needed a cent of that, then there's your rainy day fund, or at least the start of it. And then, even clients with JobKeeper was, if you're eligible in any of the first few months, even on their own, you're eligible for the full 6-month initial period. So what that meant is, if we had a client who took a little bit of a revenue hit in March or in April this year, and then they've picked up to the same sales or more, then they've probably got a lot of JobKeeper lying around that they don't really need to survive, or for their business to survive, which is, I guess, a great thing, but that's how the rules were written. Please use or set aside that excess cash for the purpose that it was given to you for, which was actually to look after the business in a downturn. So that's essentially the definition of a rainy day fund. So put it aside. Now, in terms of the next point there, which is contribute regularly, please, I prefer to send a weekly amount here. over to that bank account. Now, it could be a couple of $100 or it could be $1,000 a week. Whatever that number is for you, it needs to continually build that rainy day fund up. And you'll get to the point where you won't notice the I guess the cash flow drain in your working accounts, and then all of a sudden, months later, you'll log into your rainy day fund and go, wow, that is an impressive balance there. Now, if it builds up, I guess in terms of what to aim for, I guess the recommendation from a number of different people who write on this topic is aim for 3 months worth of your business operating expenses. And I would suggest you also add 3 months of profit in there that you want to take out as a business owner for your efforts, so that you know that you've got 3 months complete cash flow if anything ever hit the fan, or hit the fan again rather. This year has been an interesting one for that. Now, if you start to get more than that 3 months expenses, then what you can do, obviously, is start taking that cash out and investing it personally. That's the whole purpose why we, one of the purposes why we might run a business, as is actually building our family's wealth. So regularly sweeping the excess cash and investing that is a fantastic thing to do, and you're almost building up a bit of a personal, essentially a passive income from that as well personally, without having to run the business to earn it. So so there's some recommendations on the good old rainy day fund. Now, the last thing is, and I am going to pop back into Xero briefly for it, but it's another one, is having a budget. So having a business budget, so you actually get to know a few insights from doing this. But my recommendation is that it's inside your accounting software. Now, Xero makes this quite easy for us to do, and I'll show you how to access that bit in a sec. It also allows you to know what your sales target needs to be to make sure you pay all your bills and you earn a profit for your efforts as a business owner. So you can share what your sales target needs to be. In terms of what you need to do, it's not something you just set up and just sit in the background. I'd recommend reviewing the actual budget versus actual every month at least, where you can see, what were your budgeted expenses, what did it turn out to be, and if there's any variance that you need to take in mind going forward. But you can also make decisions on, hey, do I need to cut back expenses or increase others? So you might need to increase more marketing or sales related expenses to grow the business. The other thing is, in terms of monitoring your numbers, having your budget done means your sales target. So review that sales target at least every week, and that's as a sales team. That could be just you. If you're your only salesperson, that's totally fine. But make sure that's front and center at least every week. If not, a bit of a daily wrap up or a daily tally. But it's super important to keep monitoring the sales in your business. So there's some of the benefits of having a budget. Again, I'm going to flick back to Xero. Sure. So we're in Xero again. I'll jump back to the dashboard to start us here. So how we access the budget is under accounting, then in reports, and this one here, budget manager. We go into here. Now this is, if you don't have a budget yet, I would start with, given we're almost at the end of November, I would start with December onwards in terms of your planning. And I would plan out at least 3 months. Sorry, this is actuals. So this is going to show you the 3 months previous and what the results have been in the last 3 months. And then the 12 months going forward. So I would do at least 3 months as best you can. But why not just plan out the 12 months, even though the further out it goes, the less accurate it probably will be. It's still a good thing to do to map this out. So we want December 2020 is when we want our budget to start. look at the last 3 months of actuals and do a budget for 12 months. Now, you can actually do your budget within Xero here, but I find it a lot easier if we just hit this button, export to Excel. Now it gets a bit numbery in a sec, but just bear with me. Just resharing Excel. So this is the export out of Xero. So if we zoom in a bit, because it's probably a bit hectic on your screen there. We go up to the top. Now, these 3 months are actual results of this Xero demo file. So these numbers here, if you ran the same date range, should show your actual income and expenses. And then going forward, this has got, and the budget was already pre-filled in this Xero demo file, but that should show you what your budget looks like going forward. So, you know, one way to do it is to, you know, I'd actually prefer to start with all my expenses first and really detail out to your best estimate what they might be. And just some feedback on this demo company as an example. You know, the budget for advertising is $1,000 a month, but the last 2 months, the average has actually been, and the average just pops here, $2,000 a month. So that's why it's very handy to have your actuals for the last 3 months here, so you can see what it's been. So you're not just, you know, pulling figures from the air. Similarly here, we've got bank fees, you know, $10, $10, and then $300 all of a sudden. So, you know, do we want to up our budget from $20 a month to 70, or did something happen in November why we had a big one-off bank fee bill? So you get the idea that you go line by line. Now, if you get stuck, like, let's say we go and have a look at this office expenses. If you're wondering what the hell you spent in September, $1,000 on office expenses, we can switch back to Xero and actually go and look in what those transactions were. For the sake of it, I'll just show you how to do that. Back in Xero, we want the old profit and loss. And September office expenses, Xero is pretty cool. We just click on the number and it shows us the breakdown of what that was. So we can see that there's a pretty big purchase of $1,000 for a computer. And if we're doing a budget, there's a laptop, cool. If we're doing a budget going forward, we're probably not going to buy a laptop every month unless you're hiring someone every month. So, so in terms of your budget, if we go back to Excel and office expenses, I think we're safe to use, you know, maybe a figure of about $150 a month. So that's the sort of process I do personally when I'm doing our own budget here at Inspire. But I recommend you use something similar to what I'm looking, the process I'm going through now. And in terms of a sales perspective, again, the idea in business is not to break even. So if we had to break even, this company needs to do $20,275 in sales. See that there's no profit left over after that. Again, we're here to, you know, what are we here to do? Here to make a profit. So, you know, and this depends on the business owner and what your targets or aspirations or capability or capacity is as well. But please plan your sales targets so that you will actually make a desirable profit that's actually worth your efforts and the risk that you take in business. So that's what you pop in at the top. Make sure that obviously you can do that from a production or capacity perspective. And then that's I guess the number that you know, that's roughly $5,000 a week. Hang on, pardon me. That was 20 grand. That's roughly $10,000 a week. That would be your sales target. $2,000 a day. So that's the sort of focus that you need to have as a sales team. And again, if you're your only salesperson, then that's what you need front and center. $2,000 a day, and you'll hit your target. Cool. Alrighty. Well, so that's the process. Now, once we've got and you're happy with your budget, you save that. I'm going to close it and then reshare over in Xero. Now, if we go back to our budget manager, keep in mind we exported the budget from here. Now, I would keep this window open because it makes it easier to import back in when you're done. So you hit the import button. We don't need to download the template. We already exported it. We just hit this step number 3. We hit browse, demo company, import, confirm. Now I did change a few figures, but the key one is sales, which you can see is now $40,000. And then I'll just hit save there. So that shows that it's brought it through, and now we're making a fair profit there in this business. And the benefit is now going forward, you know your sales target, you can share that with your team. But the other benefit as well is you can run reports in Xero to see how you're going. So how we do that is the budget variance report. And again, this one is at least monthly, please. That you have a look at actual versus overall budget. Now you can choose what month you're looking at for, but I'll just keep it simple and do November. So the actual result was 1270. Sorry, 12,700, and that was our budget. Funnily enough, I think this is just imported what I just imported in the budget manager. But you can see that any variances will actually show up as green or red. So obviously green is under budget or a good thing, and red is outside of the planned expenses. So that's a report that you might want to monitor each month. Now, if something is crazy out of budget and you want to go in and have a look why, again, Xero is pretty handy. We just click on the expense and it brings up all the transactions if you want to dig into why that over or under budget number happened. And we can go from there. All right. Well, let me know if there's any questions, but we are close to wrapping up now. I'll jump back to look at all the slides here. And just a reminder, if you do want some assistance or some help or have any questions on the budget stuff we went through, the rainy day fund, or having a look at your profitability, please reach out to us, and you can book in a free phone call with one of our accountants at inspired.business/chat. And it is basically over to you for any questions before we wrap up. Awesome. So Steve and Emma, I think you're the only two live today, but how did you find it? Here we go. Awesome. Thanks, Emma. Sweet. All right. Well, looks like there's no questions, so we might finish up. Have a good weekend to both of you, and yeah, hope to talk to you both soon.